Awesome. And beautiful humans, please help me welcome Gil. Gil is the VP at, I'm not going to lie, I kept wanting you to say WIB, like what is the
It's WIB.
proper? Okay,
It's WIB.
because I keep wanting to like make up my own words today, as many
Go
of the
for it.
people.
Maybe we'll change.
So I'm definitely looking forward to hearing more about driving business through secure APIs. Thank you.
Yeah. So hi everyone. I'm Gil Shulman. I'm VP Product at WIB. I'll jump right into that. You heard a lot of very smart presentations today, and what I want to do is maybe something that is a little bit different. I am going to talk about what you need to do, what not to do, what to start thinking of, give you very solid advices on the way that we are looking at the world of APIs. But at the same time, I also want to show you a through line between the business and the technology. And I'm coming from over 25 years of cybersecurity. The first time that I started with that was in the IDF. I can't really share more than that. And after that, I've been a CTO for integration and consulting company. I was running the high-end product department, product management department for the high-end products at Checkpoint and at Variant and Redware and Elusive Networks. And now I'm at WIB. Actually moving to one of the most exciting things that I find most exciting, and those are APIs. So let's jump into that. And I want to start with this premise that API security enables business acceleration. And also second, security cannot come at the expense of the organization business objectives. And those two premises, we think it's key to this evolving thought of what security means to an organization. We all are aware that most projects and most spending right now are going on digital transformation kind of projects. Now, thinking about that, those projects have visibility across all departments, from the CEO, CIO, CISO, engineering, business departments, the DevOps, whatever you can imagine, everyone is involved. Now, historically, fighting the war of the cloud, fighting the war of the perimeter, the endpoint, all those different wars, we had SecOps doing the SecOps thing. But nowadays, we need partners, and we need to better understand how to work together in order to secure, business objective and not be the roadblock to the organization's objectives. So how can we actually do something like that? Is first and foremost is realizing that we are in a new world, in the world of API, of the API economy. And one of the reasons that we're using APIs, it's not just because it's easy, it's because we need to break it down. It accelerates the business, it allows us to be more agile and flexible, generate more revenue, create collaborations between teams, reuse APIs and resources. There are a long list of different things that organizations want that kind of an economy, and we are seeing it both in budgets. We see it with the amount of traffic that we are seeing across the internet, over 50% non-browser API traffic. We are seeing it with Gartner recommendations. So you can see it, the evidence for that all over. But what can we actually do in order to do that? In order to align business objective and time to market and the security that is required to actually do that. So in the past, we didn't really have that challenge because we used to deal with monoliths, updates to applications every once in a while. And now we are in a reality that we need to secure an applications and changes in APIs that can occur multiple times a day. How do you do that? So do I maybe monitor production and look at API traffic, anomalies, and all those kind of things? Definitely, but not enough. And the reason that it's not enough, and you need to think about it very well, is in production, you're going to see where you are connected. So even if you're saying and you're happy with what you're doing and securing everything that you see in production, you still have a false sense of security because you don't know what you cannot see. And in order to do that, we need a new approach to security. And that goes to the web approach of a full life cycle, meaning APIs do not end at the production, they do not end at code, they do not end or start just in testing. It's the marriage and it's the fusion of all those elements that give you a true picture and a true opportunity to deal with actually the problem. And that also is something that you can see across vulnerability programs. Vulnerability programs do not deal with APIs today. There is the regulatory risk that we just heard from Rob, potential business impact. Those applications can mean PIIs, they can mean revenue loss, they can mean faults in the supply chain, they can mean reputation, they can mean a bunch of different things. So how do I actually take that exposure window and shrink it down to a minimum? And I think that this is part of how we need to think of this world now. So let's think about it for a second. We have in this API chain, we have the DevOps, we have a bunch of developers, we have SecOps. Within SecOps, we have the SOC, we have engineers, we have architects, all those different people. Every one of them has their different perspective. So the first thing is, what might affect our business? What might affect our service rollout? So first of the thing is, if we're identifying vulnerabilities in code, right? But those are kind of things that when we're talking with DevOps, they're saying, yeah, it's sorry for the language, but it's a pain in the ass because we need to wait for a very long time for those cycles to end. So when we're talking about, yes, you need to scan the code, but you also need to account for APIs, which most tools do not do today. So how do I do that? So you need to scan for APIs, you need to scan and understand their logic, identify what kind of potential security threats you have there. Okay, that's cool. We need to understand that, but it's not enough even there. You need to stress test that. But if it takes too long, what happens? So it needs to be under around 60 seconds because it needs to be transparent. Now, SecOps detected a security concern. What do they do with that? So first of all, they do not, in most cases, they do not actually know about security threats in API. But even then, what kind of data and information, reference points, information, the data lake they can dive into in order to verify that, in order to take action? Think about that for a second. Wide impact on multiple services leveraging an API, so risk, production detected threats of potentially malicious and abnormal activities. Something is happening and we're afraid. Let's avoid service rollout. We're seeing PII and PHI exposure, insufficient data to conclude an incident, unconfirmed locking activities. So there are so many different things that might affect service rollout, service activities in production. How do we gain control? What should we actually do in order to gain back control? So the first thing, I guess, when we're looking at the problem, we need to ask ourselves what the API serves for the organization. And the first thing that we need to realize that API is a type of backbone. And those kind of backbones, they're reusing elements, so they're also inheriting security issues. How does it reflect in API world? Yeah, I'm going to use a payment or a customer information API endpoint. But now I have multiple versions of that API. Multiple applications are using it, but with different versions. So before we're looking for OWASP top 10, before we're looking for misuse, before we're looking for all those different things, you have a more basic problem, which is the size of the attack surface. The first thing that we need to do is to shrink it. and eliminate all those multiple versions. So think about APIs as the infrastructure, but all those different nodes are inheriting the problems. Different applications are inheriting the problems of those APIs. API logic failures across services. So things like BOLA, using different user IDs as an example in order to collect information. Vulnerability management programs are blind to API threats. They don't actually know or understand security in most cases. The closest thing might be an API gateway that can do rate limiting. SecOps do not know about monitoring API, so they cannot do hunting, incident response, and all those their activities. Incidents time to respond is incredibly high. So the first thing, as I mentioned, is awareness. Don't overreact. First thing, before everything, you need to understand all the APIs that are being developed, all the different APIs that are being deployed, all the different APIs that got deprecated. Everything needs to be managed. Over 50% of APIs today in organizations are unmanaged. So the things they do not know and the exposures are incredible. So before we do anything, ask yourself, what will you actually do if you had an automated CMDB that you don't need to manually update and is 100% up to date? What can you actually do with something like that? So before anything, start working on the visibility. Know that your information about APIs is accurate and is up to date to the second. Second thing is you need to align your SecOps programs. So vulnerability management must account for API vulnerabilities. Code analysis is not just enough to look for different types of bugs and issues in code. You need to look for specific API issues, so you need specialty tools for that. Red teaming, pen testing, audits, they do not apply anymore to APIs and to those kind of applications. Think about, again, the process. Red teams comes every month, every quarter, whatever it is, but we're deploying multiple times a day. You know what? You're not doing it multiple times a day, multiple times a week. But, and the thing is, and you need to remember that, the objective for DevOps is to increase the velocity of the deployment. So you need, from a security perspective, you need to account for that as well. So red teaming, pen testing, auditing, no good anymore because they do not align with the velocity of DevOps. And you need to align those teams. Align with the owner's SOPs. Do not become a pain in the ass. So do not change the way they work. Do not try and make it more difficult to do their job. Just align with the way they work. Production is too late. You need to create multiple pre-production stopping points if you are identify any risks, because the pain here is just the price is too high. So I'm worried of the time, so I'm going to start running really quick. Core synergies, and this is what we're talking about. And where is it? Just a second. Objective. Again, I'm always going to run and remind me of the objective. So get through the production as fast as possible. Get through to production as fast as possible. And this is the organizational objective. You need to keep that, but with security. So in development, we're adopting risk. So we are going to, in theory, see all the APIs that should be out there, or should it be out there. We're not going to see usage, but we're going to map all the APIs and all the changes that are possible there, and all the logical break and all the logic breaks and everything. In testing, we can start simulating attacks from the logics that comes from development. So, and avoid just simple generic testing. So you have the first stop you have in development in the code, the second stop in staging, doing attack simulations on that. In production, you need to monitor that all the fixes to the code are there, You need to make sure that you don't have multiple versions of the same APIs. You need to start identifying if APIs for some reason stopped working, or if they have a new PII field, or someone is trying to abuse the logic and start exfiltrating information. But in order to understand that and to know that when you're looking in production, you're looking at everything, you need to fuse the information from all those different stages into a coherent composition. So I'm going so key principle, visibility is a must. Okay, this is not, even before security, never assume you are covered. Because again, if you're only looking at production using all documentation, you have blind spots that you do not account for, and they introduce even worse risk because you're not looking for problems over there. Don't annoy other teams. You cannot start requiring DevOps to do security and security to do, obviously, DevOps. Figure out a way to work and create relationships between them so DevOps have what they're looking for in the language that they understand, and SecOps get the information and ability that they need in order to maintain that velocity that DevOps are requiring. Introducing API concerns into existing flows. So everything. So I'm going to what's the time? Yeah. How to use security to drive the business. Again, false sense of security. I talked about it. Always up-to-date API repository. You cannot assume you need to have you absolutely need to know that your API, that you have an API inventory that is up to date. Integrate security check transparently into CI/CD pipeline. Minimize exposure window. Just a second. To minimize the exposure window as much as possible. Today, we don't even have a measurement. Don't rely on legacy approaches. Attacks don't. They keep on evolving. So do not assume that WAFs can actually do that. API concerns are mostly not injections. There are new types of problems, logic issues. WAFs are not there. Next generation WAFs are not there. API gateways are not there. And those are absolutely required for the OPSEC programs. They're absolutely required for APIs, but they do not cover attacks that we are seeing out there that affects the most budgeted organizations in the world. Synergetic security across stages is a must. You cannot just do code or just do testing or just do production. You need to take the insights from all stages, fuse them, and make it work. So if I want you to take, let me just jump a little bit. So I'm going to jump because I don't really have a lot of time. So from summary, what do I want you to take out of that? So absolute visibility into all APIs is a must and first step. APIs are not natural expansion of the OPSEC's existing approaches. So you need to ask yourself the questions: do I have logic attacks covered? Try to connect activities as extension of existing programs. So vulnerability management team at SecOps need an expansion for APIs, as an example. Automated testing, detection, and response. To a point you have multiple opportunities to eliminate the threat. So do not just rely on detection and then response. Do not just rely on prevention in code, because there are a lot of things that you will not see. It's security that is based on perspective and of where it is. Always have the answers. And this is key, because the exposures of those projects to different personas in the organization, you need to always have answers ready. So what is the risk level to which services? Are we covered when it comes to GDPR? Do we have, how many APIs are we actually using? How many of them are third party? Do we have some shadow APIs that some organizations are using? What is the potential risks in terms of revenues? All those different types of questions connect into API economy. And this is not just, it's not just a technological problem, but it's an organizational and a business problem as well that we need to account, for which we need to account. So thank you. I think I'm over by 5 minutes. I'm sorry that I had to skip a couple of slides, but.
Is there, and thank you for your presentation, Gil. Is there a quick recap that you'd like to share over the slides that you skipped?
So I'm not sure. Are we sharing those slides? I don't know.
No, not anymore. That's why I just wanted to check if there was a quick recap.
Yeah. So we're looking at what we're trying to say at the end of the day is you must think holistically when it comes to APIs. You know, every person that I heard across API days is great because they are coming up and explaining in depth the types of issues and how to address them, from operation to procedures to human behavior to technology. But it's an holistic issue and this is why everyone is right. There is not just one thing, but the marriage of everyone, all those techniques, and creating a new insight. It's the only way to actually keep track, not just with the security issues with APIs, but the nature of APIs, the nature and the frequency of change that APIs poses. And it's a different types of thinking when it comes to security.
And thank you for that. What are the first things that you think that a company or people needing to use and drive business through secure APIs, where do they start?
Yeah, so I love that question. But at the end of the day, you know, I think the crowd will be sick of hearing me say that, but visibility, and with no compromise. I didn't, you know, in the session, I didn't just come up with the analog of a CMDB, because I think people, you know, in the security world, sometimes reminisce and say, oh, I wish I updated my CMDB and I had something that is, you know, I can use as a resource. And today, most organizations, think about that figure, over 50% of APIs inside organizations are unmanaged. Think about what it means, both in terms of operations, but also in terms of security, that you do not know things that meant and were designed to offer entrance into your organization and services. And you simply don't know what's going on there. So this is why you don't even hear me say, yes, you need to understand the security risks and everything, but this is the type of an inventory that you actually need. So if I'm going to pick and choose, the first thing that someone needs to start with across their program is visibility. That brings together DevOps, because DevOps will automatically enjoy and understand how to use that and what to see there, but it will also enable SecOps through their programs, enable SecOps to actually see what they need to do and protect. Because, you know, how cliche it is to say, yeah, you cannot actually secure what you do not know of or you do not know about. And yes, it is a cliche, but cliches are there because they're true.
Very well said. Very well said.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Gil. We really appreciate you joining Interface by API Days. We're just excited to have everyone here and definitely learning about such an important part of using secure APIs to drive business, instead of having that concept of just we need a secure to secure. Let's make it a pro instead of a con. And I appreciate you sharing that.
Absolutely. Just one thing, try and avoid tunnel vision when it comes to API. Don't try just to plug the little hole in the dam.
Ooh, any suggestions on how to not have tunnel vision?
Yeah, visibility. Once you have visibility, you have a wide approach, and you start understanding. You don't ask the question of what is API in code. You ask what kind of APIs I have. And that kind of language also trains your mind to think about not just the problem in code, in testing, or in production, but the problem itself.
Well said. And I like how you brought it back to the holistic view of it. And recapping what you just said in my mind is uh, almost going from, having that tunnel vision, like we're sea level talking about it, and then
Yeah,
just going up to like sky level to be able to look at it. And thank you again, Gil, for joining us today. We appreciate it.
it was my pleasure as always. Thank you.